Closer look now at the changing battlefield in Ukraine. Russia's military advance not as quick as Moscow anticipated, but there are some signs things could escalate soon. A senior U.S. defense official now telling CNN it is possible the Russians could take a, quote, more aggressive approach in their attempts to take Kyiv. Let's take a look at the map. Again, you're looking here at the entire country. It's 44 million people, the size of Texas from a landmass. Let's look at here. You see the red shaded areas. That's where the Russians have made advances over the past 5 days. Coming troops from Belarus, troops from Russia here, taking some land, moving toward Kyiv. U.S. officials say Russians are now about 15 miles away from Kyiv. You see some Russian forces crossing in, taking some land here in northern Ukraine, including where Fred Pleitgen just was, from Belgorod in, approaching Kharkiv. Battles here as well. And you see from Crimea, annexed by Russia, some forces coming in, some from the sea as well, to take some areas here in southern Ukraine, and a slight expansion of already held areas by pro-Russian separatists out in the Donbass. Let's get some now insights from retired U.S. Army General James Spider Marks. General Marks, appreciate your time. Let's look at it from this perspective. As the generals would say, even the best plan does not survive first contact. If you are the Ukrainians, and U.S. Western officials providing them with actionable intelligence, what have you learned in these first 5 days that you should be doing now to slow what we know is, I'm just going to bring up the pictures, there's a Russian convoy, you see the grainy pictures here, huge military convoy coming toward Kyiv. What have the Ukrainians learned in the first 5 days that they should be applying today?
Great question, John. What the Russians have clearly demonstrated is that they tried to achieve success in far too many places. So if you try to win everywhere, you're not going to win anywhere. So they brought forces in across the border, as you demonstrated, both in the north, from the east, and from the south. They have not enjoyed sufficient success in any one of those locations. Clearly, Kyiv is the center of gravity. That's where everything hinges on the success of the Russian forces there and the success of the Ukrainian defense. If they can make Kyiv a deadly, hard fight, Ukraine's going to enjoy some great success going forward. The challenge always is how much longer can the Ukrainian forces hold out? As you've described, clearly the numbers belong to the Russians. The persistence and the will, which has just been phenomenal, belongs to the Ukrainians. And what you see with the Russian forces, you can really take advantage of them. If you can isolate a Russian force, if you can get them to end up fighting without supporting fires, either laterally from an adjacent unit or indirect fire coming in, the Ukrainians have demonstrated that they can take those forces on in a very tactical battle. This, however, has a large operational component and a strategic implication. So win as many tactical fights as you can. That's what the Ukrainians are demonstrating and need to continue to do.
So let's come at this then from Putin's perspective. First 5 days have not gone as well as you anticipated. Ukrainian officials say they have intelligence that shows Belarus is about to add troops to the fight. Belarus, of course, a puppet regime of Putin. They recently trained with Russian forces, one would assume, to work on command and control communications operations. From Putin's perspective, you could say, things haven't gone that well, let's negotiate. Or you could say, I'm backed into a corner, I'm going to lash out. That's what U.S. defense officials fear, that this will accelerate. What would you be watching for from what you anticipate Russia would do next?
Well, we've seen two things, right? I mean, to your first point, I don't think diplomacy is really a legitimate avenue that Putin wants to go down, even though there was this opportunity to have the negotiations in Belarus with a delegation from Ukraine and a delegation from Russia. I think that's simply a head fake. That's off to the side. We'll see what comes out of that. But clearly what the Russians are doing is they're increasing their presence with Belarusian forces coming down into the fight. As you've indicated, those forces are fresh, and they've also been in training exercises with the Russians over the course of the last couple of weeks. That means that they're coming into the fight, and they'll come in probably, as you just drew there, John, from the west side. They don't want to try to separate the forces with the Dnieper River coming in from the east and from the west. So the Belarusians will come in, try to reinforce the airhead just outside Kyiv to the north and west, and then start to bring forces into Kyiv. When they get into Kyiv, that becomes very, very tough fighting, as you know. Starts to suck up manpower when you get into an urban terrain. So that's number one. Number two is Putin also has to continue to produce this disinformation for his population back home that says everything's fine, we're doing great, and the Ukrainians are not acquitting themselves as well as you might want or you might think. He's going to have to keep that up.
And General Marks, lastly, I'm just going to bring up a map here that shows NATO members essentially around Russia and around Ukraine. Obviously, President Biden, NATO countries have said no NATO troops on the ground, no U.S. troops on the ground, but many of those countries are supplying right now military equipment to Ukraine. We also know, of course, the best intelligence in the world right here watching what the Russians are doing. What is happening right now at the Pentagon and in NATO military headquarters in terms of getting the Ukrainians what they need without crossing the no boots on the ground line?
Yeah, that's very, very tough. Now, A+ for the United States and NATO getting on board, literally breaking some muscle memory that they've had for decades, in that they now are advancing military sales, military equipment, and they're moving that as far east as they can. Two things. One is intelligence. There's tremendous intelligence that I know the United States is sharing with its NATO partners, even as a matter of routine under normal protocols. But I would anticipate that they're also breaking those protocols and giving the partners that much more deliberate and detailed intelligence that they probably have not given them before. And then the second thing is, how do you get that equipment, that new kit, from staging areas, probably in Poland and Romania, into the fight? That becomes very, very difficult. That has to be done by Ukrainian forces, and in many cases, fighting their way through Russian positions in order to do a link up with the equipment and bringing it back in. There's a real practical matter here in terms of how that support can be realized.
A giant challenge as we watch Day 5 play out. General Marks, grateful for your time and insight, sir.